Welcome to Today in News Tech, our weekly extended chat where we discuss the last week of news and break down what we can learn to help our local newspaper publishers at our hometown. This is Christopher Winders, media producer, sitting in for Matt, who is enjoying today's discussion from behind the scenes. However, joining us as always from the OHT publisher support team, we have Terry, Vera, and Tyler. Welcome, everyone. So I thought today we'd focus on a piece that I found from the Reuters Institute of Oxford University, and this is a really big think piece on journalism, media, and technology trends and predictions for 2022. I found this to be an in-depth and very extensive article, so much so that I thought I would break it into a few bullet points, and helpfully enough, so did they. What we've been talking about a lot in the past few weeks on both the Our Hometown Office Hours podcast and the Today in News Tech podcast is about audio articles features from Our Hometown, and how some of our customers have really begun to engage with that. So if we come down to part 2 of the bullet points from this, audience strategies and publisher innovations, well, one of the really big innovations is more resources into audio and newsletters in 2022. And if we look at this, podcast and digital audio accounts for 80%, email newsletter 70%, digital video 63%, and some of the smaller ones in the AR are in the smaller ones. So this is where a lot of publishers are seeing where they think their money should go in investment and innovation. And once again, one of those is audio. Going to jump back over to my bullet points here. The summary from the article on this particular point is growing consumption of digital audio has been a trend for a few years, driven by a combination of smartphones, better headphones, and investment in podcasts and platforms like Spotify, Google, and Amazon. But in the last year, we've seen the rapid development of a much wider range of digital formats, such as audio articles, flash briefings, and audio messages, along with live formats such as social audio. Taking this as a jumping off point, I wanted to open this up to everybody here to comment on interactions with customers, personal interactions with any of these services, any news articles that may relate to this that you've seen, anything that demonstrates that this is indeed part of what we may be seeing developing over the next year. Maybe that's a good place to start, is just to break down this one big point into some of its smaller points. So growing consumption of digital audio has been a trend for a few years. I think you guys would say that that has definitely been a focus of Our Hometown. We've been implementing audio features for at least the past year plus. Is that correct, guys?
Right.
We've been doing it for a little over 2 years, haven't we?
A little over 2 years, absolutely. And obviously, everyone's got a smartphone. Everybody's either going to AirPods. So all of these technological hardware innovations have made it much more engaging, I think, for users to consume content through these platforms, which they mentioned like Spotify, Google, and Amazon.
Christopher, could you kind of give us a couple of examples? You have flash briefings and audio messages. Social audio, I'm assuming, is like TikTok.
Let's jump back over to the original article where they actually go through a few of these in more depth with some images, because I personally have not used any of these services, but they do talk about some of the beta testing that the social platforms have been using. So audio messaging is where you can like leave little audio snippets on Facebook. I think you can do that on a lot of, like leaving a video voicemail on your Google Voice and things like that.
Right. I think Apple integrated audio, the text messages a couple of years back as well.
So that may be specifically what this is pointing to, is instead of just a text message coming through SMS, we've had image messages for a while, so why not a little audio snippet of a 15 or 20 second news update? So the implications for journalism, and this is specifically with kind of the social audio things, they say it offers better opportunities for both engagement and monetization that they can get through similar investments in text and video. Do you guys agree with that? That an audio version of an article is more engaging than a text version.
I would agree with that. I mean, there's some times where you can read, and it's quiet and you have that focus. But then there's other times where you have a lot going on, sometimes being read to. And sometimes I'm guilty of this. I actually have the audio player while I'm reading to help me focus on what I'm doing. That helps. So I definitely see the value and engagement.
Amazon actually has a feature called Whisper Sync, where when you're reading a book on your Kindle, you can basically have it sync up to the audio version of the same novel or whatever. So some people really do enjoy that kind of simultaneous input of a visual and auditory input. The next point was a sub-point that I'd pointed out before. Can I say point more times in a single sentence? So this next point I would like to highlight is more publishers are looking to become audio destinations of their own. With audio becoming more central, the battle is on between competing platforms and publishers to control the full customer experience. And this, I think, is what ties really nicely, and I'll put a link to the Our Hometown demo of our new audio app features being highlighted on one of our publishers' apps. But from what I saw, that app now contains all of the newspaper's content, be it text, be it advertising, be it managing subscriptions, but also being all of the audio and ways to manage the audio into playlist experiences. We've got curated playlists on there, and that seems to be a real cutting edge that Clark County is basically, they are shooting way past the curve in how early they're implementing something like this.
Right. And I think another big point to hit about that is the main reason this is happening is the audio is getting higher engagement, and you want to make sure that that engagement is happening on a platform you control. That way you're getting the subscriber and ad revenue from it, as opposed to a podcast platform where you're at best splitting revenue with the platform holder.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's no 30% cut when you're hosting all of your own audio content through a third party, which is Our Hometown's audio articles feature can be implemented on any website, third party through an RSS feed, which can then generate all of the content, all of the audio content, so that you get the interface, the audio playlist interface, and that's what is recently been implemented into the iOS and Android app for Clark County. I did want to run this next little bit by you just to kind of bounce this off. What do you guys think about targeting times of day with certain types of audio content?
I think that would be positive. I mean, I listen to NPR in the morning while I'm getting ready for work, and they have like the morning edition that is the top stories and things of interest. That might not necessarily be something I would listen to in the evening. So having different content play at different times, I can see that being very valuable.
Well, this is just an illustration of some of the things that the New York Times has been doing, but I have much more experience with NPR where absolutely I'll listen to Morning Edition, but if you notice how their content changes throughout the day, you get your morning news summaries, then you'll get a late morning commentary, and then a lot of times there'll be kind of a local feature, a show for like 2 hours, but then you'll get some of the larger syndicated long form things like with Terry Gross and things like that. So I think that might be a model that local publishers could look at if they can get some analytics on what types of content. Maybe this can come from the notifications that people choose and things like that. And that might be another thing that we could implement on the site, is so that notifications could be scheduled per time of day. So maybe you don't want to hear about obituaries in the morning, but you want to hear about the weather and traffic. And if those are categories that are available, you could prioritize those to come up as notifications at a certain point in the day, and then have other notifications come a little later. When you're sitting down to dinner, you start getting a few notifications. Might be an interesting way of retargeting, as we've mentioned before.
I think one thing to mention, Christopher, is that just to get started is important. That's number one. Just get started. And then the other thing is to remember that readers are, to a certain extent, programmable, and consistency is key. So if you're going to start something like this and say you choose to put your audio up at 6 o'clock every morning, or even just once a week at the same time, although I would recommend more frequently, do it consistently, because your readers will eventually learn to expect it at that time.
Very
so
true.
Even if you only do one topic a couple of times a week, be consistent about it, and don't skip anything. Don't make excuses. Just do it and be consistent and trust your readers.
Give them as much control and let them tailor the experience to what they want.
Right. But if they know that they can expect to get their audio, Tuesday mornings at 7 o'clock.
Well, I think that builds upon the print model. People are used to going out in the morning and going and picking up the paper in the yard.
Right.
Not so much anymore, but it builds upon that consistency, as you said, and that regularity where people get used to their local news outlet being a part of their daily routine. And exactly. I know that's what publishers want for their audiences.
I couldn't have said it better. Perfect.
Let's see. For one last bit, we will touch on video, because even though one of the stats showed that a lot of audio works, and obviously video is a different medium. You can't commute with video. In your experience, where have you seen videos start to pop up most in the news space? We did a story on the BBC using Instagram last week. Are there any further thoughts on how some of our local publishers might be able to use video to bring more community engagement? Say, I think maybe we brought up doing some TikTok clips from local sporting events and stuff like that. That would be a low-hanging fruit, that where a publisher already has a presence there covering the event, let them throw their phone out and get a little video content to go along.
Right. I know one of our publishers does the Facebook Live weekly, and they actually have a segment and it's different topics. But what I thought was really interesting is during election time, she actually had them come to her office and give their points of view for election. I thought that was wonderful to have a debate in a news office.
We do have one publisher who incorporates their civic meetings into their content so that there's a live video or just a video of the proceedings that happen.
Terry, let's save that, because that actually comes in part 3 of the coverage. So we will definitely come back to that on the usage of live events by news outlets to further engage with their community, get feedback, and all of those sorts of things. So we will definitely be covering that in the future. So just to sum up, some of these big trends are audio-based, is the one we're focusing on today. And we've highlighted some of the features of our hometown and how we are helping our customers do that. And we've had a really amazing demo that I will link to.
I just wanted to chime in where to get started for publishers. What I would possibly do is follow like your local news on TV. Your 6 a.m. isn't going to be different than what you're going to have in the evening. Relevancy, consistency, as Carrie said, find out what your readers enjoy at certain times. You could do a survey, a poll, get the community involved, and that'll help you build your routine.
I believe so. Because what we want to do is make the consumption of local news content just a normal part of someone's life. Not getting into Twitter flare debates or any of these kind of things. I think the trend this year, if I may just put in my own opinion, is a turn towards constructive journalism, a turn away from talking head debates on 24-hour news networks. I think we need to move into a place where we regain our sense of community and shared values. Solutions journalism. You don't report on things without offering solutions or a perspective. That's what people come to read newspapers for. You can get facts anywhere, but they want your local perspective of your reporters. That's why they buy a subscription to your newspaper. So I think we will cut it there for today in News Tech, the weekly chat. And I just want to thank everybody for all your contributions. We miss Matt. We hope we will have him back next week, but he's been here in spirit and in chat. And Tyler, Vera, and Terry, thank you so much for all your support and your contributions. And we will see you next time.
Thank you. Have a good week.
Thank you.
Today in News Tech, the podcast covering innovation in digital journalism. You can follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and subscribe on YouTube or any of your favorite podcast apps. We'll see you tomorrow.
At our hometown, we help newspapers build WordPress websites, design native apps, and develop digital subscription models. If you are interested in a free prototype of your publication on WordPress, go to ourhometown.com and click the Contact Us button.